Good afternoon, Mr. Rajendra Pawar, Mr. Tadani, Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Rajesh Khanna, all the members of the faculty, graduating class, their parents, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Tadani has been more than generous in his introduction for me. हिंदी में कहावत है, नाम बड़े और दर्शन छोटे. I don't count myself in the ranks of the greats, but somehow, by the grace of God, by a belief in oneself, and by an outstanding team, one has achieved whatever one has achieved. But first, today is your day. Today is the day when you begin the rest of what would be a cherished, respected, a high-achieving career for each one of you. I take this opportunity to not just congratulate each one of you for your achievements, but also want to congratulate your parents. Being a parent myself, one of the days of greatest joy for me was to see my daughter graduate, because you felt you had accomplished something more in your life than just working for an organization and delivering results on a regular basis. There is nothing more satisfying than to see your dearest one become something in his or her life. There is no greater joy, there is no greater being, there is no greater feeling that you can have. And therefore, I exult in the joy of all the parents in celebrating the graduation of their children. I also exult in the joy of the faculty. I've always believed that teaching is probably the most noblest profession in the world, comparable to being a doctor or compared to being a priest, because you mold and create human beings. What we do in the corporate world is that we try and guide the talents of the human beings towards particular goals. But what you do is you mold a human being. And when you mold one human being, you're in turn molding a family. And that's, I think, the most gratifying part of your journey. Today is also the day when you will get inflicted with advice from grey-haired men and women. The only simple thing I would like to leave each one of you with, this is your life. We can't lead your life. But all that we can do is to just give you a few pointers that might be of some use to you. And that's what I'm hesitatingly going to share with you. What you become, what you seek, and what you do starts with the basic question, who are you? I don't ask this in a philosophic sense. I ask this in the sense of a being finding the direction and way on the road called life. Clarity on who you are, what do you believe in, and what do you want out of your life are important questions to ask today. You have been blessed to study at one of the finest institutions in this country. Men like Mr. Pawar have been visionaries, along with Mr. Tadani, to create education as a platform for technological progress in this country. You can create technological institutions, but where are you going to find the hardcore material that makes those institutions? It is at places like NIIT and then now NIIT University that this has happened. So in a sense, you are with people, nurtured by people who have built institutions of learning. And I think it is important that you understand, appreciate, and cherish that. So you have been blessed to be at one of the finest institutions. I've not had the privilege of seeing your full campus as yet, but I look forward to it because it's beautifully made. It's beautifully constructed with the best faculty that you can have and with facilities that are world class. So you are beginning your careers by being at a world-class university in India. And that is a matter of privilege, because there are very few people who have that privilege in their lives and in their careers. And therefore, there is even more that question that you need to ask of yourself. What is it that you want to do with your life? What is it that you believe in? Today, the fashionable word in many boardrooms is purpose and values. I keep telling my team, what is so new about it? All our families has been about purpose and values. What has your grandfather taught you? What has your grandmother taught you? Who are the icons and symbols in your life? In my own life, my icons were my mother and my two grandmothers. They molded me and molded my character. And they taught me my own values of dignity, of respect, of hard work, of humility. Saying this is what will serve you well in your life. And this is the purpose and values that we talk about today. So as you venture forth into your life, think about who you are, what is it that you want to become, and what is it that you can learn from others. I'm very fond of Kabir Dohas, and therefore I will inflict some upon you, because I believe that this saintly figure, 700 years ago, exemplifies the thoughts that are relevant today and that will be relevant for the next, I don't know how many millennia. The simple doha he said was, Bura jo dekhan main chala, bura na miliya koi, jo dil khoja apna, mujhsa bura na koi. Seeking out people who are worse than you made you realize that actually there is no one worse than me. It is that humility and it is that sense of purpose and values that will always drive you towards excellence. There is no end. Mr. Tadani was very kind enough to talk about the various medals and accolades that I've got. These are all metals. They don't mean much. Once you down the hat of your corporate world, who cares? As my wife says, you will have to sit and polish it anyway. Right? And I think that's the truth, that you can sit and polish it, but you still are seeking something that is beyond what you have achieved. So think about it, my young friends. It's an important question, and think about it as you reflect. One of the things that resonated most with me when I came to your campus is something that brought back fond memories of my school days. You have Astachal here. The school that I went to, called Rishi Valley in the south, also had Astachal. And we used to sit and contemplate for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes. Admittedly, not with great seriousness, because we were too busy trying to poke the guy in front or take a look at the prettiest girl in class. That was what we managed to achieve, but at least we got a little bit of perspective in our lives to be able to focus our attentions. The second bit I would like to leave you with is that your education has given you the stature to call yourself skilled. It still hasn't given you the stature to call yourself competent. And that's what you need to build as you go forward. In whatever job you do, in whatever business you run, in whatever vocation you do, learn that competence is the cutting edge of yourself that will make you not just a better professional, it will give you greater satisfaction. And competence goes together with continuous learning. You got your 4-year degrees, you got your master's degrees, you got your consolidated MBA degrees, you got all these accolades today. But your life is going to become fulfilled only and only if you contemporize yourself with the latest learning, the latest trends in whatever you do. My generation was different. We joined at a time when skills were limited, where institutions were limited, where opportunities were limited. And therefore the pace of change was also limited. So we could carry on our careers with a reasonable degree of certainty that the body of knowledge that we had acquired when we had gone to institutions would be adequate to last through life. Your lives are going to be different. You are going to be repositioned, you are going to be recalibrated, and the word disruption is going to be a part of your competence skill set for the better part of your life. So whatever you've learned for 4 years, some of it might change in the next 4 years. A lot of it might change in the next 8 years. And if you are not building yourself with a continuous saga of competence and continuous learning, you're going to find yourself adrift. And it is that sense that you have to always try and avoid. So build competence and build continuous learning. Another characteristic. You've got your degrees. You've got your achievements. Some of you have been honored with gold medals. Fantastic. But life is more than this. Life is not just about competence, intelligence, and skill. Life is about credibility. Credibility as a professional, as a businessman, as a human being is an important characteristic of your life. By credibility is meant as sure as sunrise, as clear as a pond, no surprises. So if you are particularly a nasty person, continue to be nasty. The day you start becoming good, somebody might say, "Dal mein kuch kala hai." Right? I remember in my own career, I had a first boss who was very mercurial. And a couple of times he suddenly got very nice towards me. And I got deeply suspicious. I said, "Kuch na kuch to hoga. How has this share become a bakri today?" Right? So, build that credibility. Credibility is what will last you through good times and bad. And Mr. Tarani shared the various crisis moments that I've been through. And yes, I have a little bit of an albatross kind of history. I either create a crisis or fall into a crisis. But honestly, when you fall into a crisis, nobody really cares about your CGPA or the institution where you got your BTech or MTech. They bother about the credibility of that professional. Is this guy or this lady good enough to come out of the mess we find ourselves in? Does he have the moral template? Does he have the conviction? Does he have the courage? Does he have the competence? Does he have the orchestration capabilities? Does he have the leadership? Does he have the compassion, the passion, the empathy to be able to get us out of this mess? Not whether he was a gold medalist or whether he passed out from NIIT or from Harvard or Cambridge or whichever university in the world it is. Build on this credibility. Don't neglect it. Some of us neglect it. We think that being a chameleon is a good way of leading life. You are not politicians. You are human beings. That means that you have a certain conviction that you stick to. You have a certain credibility that you stick to. Because you will be known by your credibility. Ultimately, all of us lead our lives. All these medals, all these accolades, all these great things. Ultimately, what do we do when somebody retires from a company or somebody, God forbid, passes away? You talk about the character of that person. अच्छा आदमी था, भला आदमी था, कुछ करके गया. या अच्छी औरत थी, भली औरत थी, कुछ करके गई, समाज के लिए कुछ करके गई. You don't say कि उसने बनाया टर्नओवर 15,000 करोड़, उसने इतनी प्रॉफिट बनाई, उसने ये थोड़ी बात करते. And that comes from credibility. So don't neglect it, my friends. It's important that you build it wherever you are. The next characteristic is found in the least amount, certainly in the corporate world, to a certain extent in the social and political world. The word courage. Courage is like a reed in the wind. I bend, but I don't break. Courage is that capability, that quiet voice in your head that says there is a better way. And you quietly say it. Courage is not telling your boss, "You idiot, how did you get promoted?" That is a career limiting move. And you will snuffle your careers as soon as it is begun. Some of us think that that is courage. थप्पड़ मारा यार मैंने बंदे को, क्या मारा मैंने, right? It happens in Bollywood, even that is questionable. But in real life, I think courage is that capability that you stand up and be counted. When you become senior leaders, which I'm sure all of you will, you want to be surrounded by people with courage. You don't want to be surrounded by leaders. Unfortunately, that's what will happen. Because every guy will look at you, sir, no greater leader than you. Sir, aapke bina to kuch ho hi nahi sakta. Right? And you get inflated. It goes to your head. The only person in your life who can bring you down to earth is your wife. That's for sure. She'll tell you, apne aap ko bada zyada samajhte ho. Come down. You're not as great as you think. And sometimes your children. Okay, in my case, my wife and daughter are both my fondest human beings and my worst critics. So I get it from both of them. One from the current generation, one from my generation. But anyway, that's how it is. So have this courage. But courage must also go with communication. And Kabir said this beautifully. He said, "Aisi bani boliye, man ka apa koi, auran ko sheetal kare, aapu sheetal." Why do we want to be harsh on each other? Why can't you get the worst news across with kindness, with good words? Today is an age when we are getting shrill, and all of you are exposed to it, right? When India consumes the maximum amount of data in the world, I'm getting worried because all of it is videos. And a lot of those videos are things that you should not be seeing because it pollutes your mind. It doesn't give you a peace of mind. It gives you a bloody headache at the end of it all. So moderate your communication. Nice guys also win. Nice women also win. It's not the guys only with bluster or only the guys who punch you in the face or getting ahead in the queue who win. Nice guys also win. Try and be a nice guy. It makes you happier. It gives you a less stress-free life. So focus on building your courage along with your communication. The next attribute, which I know is like shouting at the deaf, concentration. Life is about concentration and focus. आप लोग तो व्हाट्सएप भी करते हो, ट्विटर भी करते हो, इंस्टा भी करते हो, चूं करके फोटो ले लेते हो. Every second element, you do it. That's your generation. I applaud you for it. But learn that in life, to succeed, you have to have focus and concentration. You have to know some things and you have to know it really well. You can't be halfway house about anything. It is not tentative. Skills that have been given to you are meant to be concentrated and focused upon and built. So if you are in data science, if you are in information technology, if you are in a particular aspect of IT or whatever field you're doing, you need to be an expert in it. And that means that you have to concentrate. Concentration is an important element. And my request to you, my plea to you is give your time and give yourself some time for it. The next one element, creativity. We are seldom looking at our lives creatively. We think that creativity only happens with artists and musicians. Creativity is in your job. My first job, when I first joined as a management trainee, which again was an accident. I wanted to be an IAS officer. And my father said, Hindustan Lever interview is very good because they really grill you. So when you go for the IAS interview, तुम पास हो जाओगे. Little realizing that ये Hindustan Lever interview pass हो गया. And then one of my first roles was to sell dalda. In the old days, there used to be Vanaspati, which is called dalda. And now it's a company called Banji. And one of the jobs that I had was to clean dalda tins. The way to bring down a master's in economics from the Delhi School of Economics, one of the top 5 in the class, etc., was to go make him clean dalda tins. And my biggest worry was, don't post me in Kamla Nagar, because professors from the Delhi school would have been coming there to shop. कोई देख लेगा, अरे सुरेश तो डाटा डब्बा साफ कर रहा है, right? इतने तुझे पढ़ाई इसलिए, right? So ultimately, it was unfortunately in Rajasthan. It was not in Delhi. But I perfected the art of cleaning the tin in the shortest amount of time. And that was my element of creativity. So my supervisor said, he said, यार tin बड़ा अच्छा साफ करते हो, शायद तुम आगे जाके बर्तन भी अच्छा मांजोगे. So I said, हो सकता है, maybe. And during COVID times, even that bartan manjna became a creative habit with me. Constraints. Don't look at your life with constraints. You always begin with saying, why can't I not do something? You always begin by saying, this is impossible. Nothing is impossible. I think you need to seek. Yesterday we had a Diwali party for our staff. And one of the groups that we called are foot and mouth artists. There's a person who came with no hands. With his legs, he created a painting on the spot. He could open the tubes, he could use the brush, he could create it. And he said, you think I can do only painting? I can even drive a car. Now if you asked him, what are your constraints in life? He would have laughed at you. These are the constraints. I have 2 stubs. And still I go about my life like a charmed human being. You have no constraints. You're all born fit. You're all born sound. You're all born intelligent. So don't look at your life with constraints, because if you look at your life with constraints, you will only repent it afterwards. The last 2 or 3 points which I thought I'll leave you with, which has worked me and helped me well. It's always been said that leadership is a type A task. You have to be a tough leader. You have to be an in-your-face leader. You have to be a leader like Amitabh Bachchan, who says, "Mujhe Shahenshah kehte hain." No need. A leader has to be like a coconut. Tough on issues, but with a soft core. Compassion, competence, and leadership go together. We've all been through the most horrendous times in the last 2.5 years. It's a tribute to an institution that you have today, a convocation where you're all physically present. What was my biggest concern as a leader during the last 2.5 months was not the results of the company, not the profits of the company, not how shareholders would be happy or unhappy, not how investors would think of me for the future, or what I would be perceived as a corporate leader for the future. Instead, it was the safety and security of my people. If they don't live, I don't live. That's what leadership is. The capacity to know every strain of music and yet not make a noise. That is leadership. And that happens when your competence, when you are confident about yourself. If you're confident about yourself and you're compassionate and you're a leader, then you become a person that truly resonates with your people, with the environment, with the community. Then good things happen automatically. So when a salesman of mine walks 14 kilometers a day for 3 days in order to get my products registered to be sold during COVID times, it is not my instruction. He does it himself. That is culture speaking. That is culture speaking because conviction and dedication comes along with compassion to make people do the things that they do. So keep compassion in your mind. I have never missed targets in my life. I hate missing targets. Corporate performance does not happen by you saying chalta hai. Nothing is chalta hai. But chalta hai goes with compassion. That we will make things happen, but we will do it as a compassionate, as a decent organization, building in all the purpose and values that have been enshrined by past leaders in this company to make ourselves what we are. And as leaders, and all of you will be leaders, and all of you are leaders. There's a doha of Rahim that says, "Bada hua to kya hua, jaise ped khajur, panchi ko chhaya nahi, phal lage ati dur." What is the point of being that tall date palm tree when neither a bird can get shelter nor can you access the fruit? Leadership is about being tall enough for the shortest man to access you. Leadership is about humble enough to get the humblest person to talk to you. And humility has two great virtues. The first virtue of humility is it makes you accessible. People talk to you. They don't get scared of you. So you get to know the things that you should be knowing. And humility gives you another very big characteristic. It makes you not take yourself too seriously. As you become big, as you become more successful, you start taking yourself too seriously. मैं तो बड़ा आदमी हूँ, मैं तो बहुत कुछ हूँ, मैं तो 30 मार खान हूँ, right? And that pumps you up and makes you do the kinds of things. I mean, if you look around you in the world, the corporations that fail don't fail because their strategies are horribly wrong. They fail because their leadership has hubris and arrogance and do the wrong things at the wrong time. That's why they fail. And that happens when you do not have this ability to be able to marry leadership to a context and to a personal characteristic. And the biggest task of leadership that you would ever face is a task of managing yourself. Managing others is easy. Managing yourself is a problem. When a crisis happens, how do you deal with the crisis? How do people look at you? People look around you and they say, "Bhai, ये तो इसको पसीने छूट रहे हैं, ये तो कांप रहा है." Remember that there are more eyes looking at you than what you're looking at. And that's an important characteristic of both competence, of humility, of courage, of compassion, of all elements that you've learned today and learned over your life coming together. And the last point I would like to leave you with, and this is a controversial point, and this is contentment. Life is about contentment. Life is not about continuously seeking to be better than the other guy or the other lady. If you don't want to be content, welcome to two worlds that can affect you. First, you will start breaking your relationships in life. तुम्हारी प्रमोशन नहीं हुई, किसी और की हो गई, बच्चा A ग्रेड लेके आया, अरे A+ क्यों नहीं लाया, वहां पे चला गया, right? You smash him. हो सकता है, हमारे साथ भी हुआ है, right? Parents always put you at a higher grade than what they think you are capable of, and then attribute it either to the father or the mother, depending on who wears the pants in the house, right? Invariably, that's how it works. So that's the first characteristic. Second, welcome to the world of heart attacks and ulcers. Because you are constantly envious of the other person. अरे उसको promotion मिल गया, अरे उसके पास ये गाड़ी है. Right? This is an envy-driven culture. Right? Who's wearing a Rolex watch and who's going on a holiday where and who's doing what. This is the acquisitive culture that we are all born with and we all aspire to. If you see a simple person who leads a simple life, वो तो गंवार है, वो तो संत आदमी है, right? And in the Delhi culture, of course, it is all pervasive, right? When I went to a get-together and told them I work for Nestle, they looked at me and said, "Oh." When somebody came around and said, "Have you met the chairman of Nestle?" अरे आपने बताया नहीं, right? As if that was the bigger moniker than working for the company. Yeah, technically it's true. I am the chairman of Nestle, but I also work for the company. So have contentment in your life. If you have contentment in your life, then you are able to live life with greater equanimity. You're able to spend times on the things that you should spend your time on. Have hobbies. When you get married and you have families, spend time with your children. I have not missed a single PTA or graduation of my daughter in her entire schooling and college. I never missed it. I used to go for it. Take leave and go. That is what is important. In the end of your life, what you will be remembered by is the person that you are, and a few people around you who will say, "Dad, you are a good dad." That for me is a bigger accolade than any Fortune or Forbes or X, Y, and Z award that can ever come my way. I've given you some thoughts for reflection, my young friends. I take the opportunity as an elder to bless you sincerely with long and happy lives ahead. You will achieve a lot more than you ever dreamt of, but dream about it. You will do a lot more than you ever thought of. Plan it and make your lives purposeful to achieve it. You will achieve a lot more happiness than you ever dreamt of. Give yourself the chance. Thank you all very much. Good luck and God bless you all.